My microphone has been off the whole freaking time. Okay, y'all, that was splendid. So, again, I am Venus Brown. I am back with another live reading of The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I am sorry that I had my mic off this whole time. Just blame it on my bubble brain. Bubble brain. I am getting older. I am going through perimenopause. It has been a journey and not a great one. Doctors are not very forthcoming about this stuff until you are dealing with problems, dealing with it. They don't seem to fucking want to tell you anything ahead of time. And I have a boomer parent who definitely did not talk to me about this at all, really, before this. Before I started perimenopause, all I knew was hot flashes, maybe cold flashes. That's it. That's all I knew about. And I didn't understand what that really consisted of. Now I do. Anyway, we need to get on with part 15, The Fox and the Cat. I'm sorry, I did cover all of this before, and unfortunately my mic was off. So, yeah, Fox and the Cat is going to be told from Aunt Lydia's perspective. This is going to go into the reasons why Becca has been traumatized. It goes more deeply into it than it has before. And I do not know if they're going to go this route in the TV show. So far, they're acting like Becca's traumatized, but there's no particular reason or understanding for it. Possibly her sexuality. And I just don't buy that. I think if they are going to continue with that storyline and that idea that her trauma is all because of her sexuality, I find that very lazy writing, and in my opinion, think it is harmful to the LGBTQ community. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. You can believe whatever you want to. I just don't think that's right, and I do think it's lazy. But I am holding out hope that they are not sticking with that storyline, that's just because Becca's not really willing to open up about it right now. Or possibly that she's been burying it. I remember now particular parts of the trauma that I have experienced, I buried for so long. I didn't talk about it. I didn't think about it. I didn't remember it because it was fucking buried so goddamn deep in. Now I've been through enough therapy and enough discussing this and enough pulling this shit out from the fucking abyss that I do remember a lot more and I am better able to talk about it, but not always. And no, I was never molested by any of my parents. But there is definitely sexual assault, rape, and all of that, just not from my family members. Anyway, let's get to the chapter. So we are on chapter 41 is what we're starting with. And remember, if you want to say anything, if you have any opinions, any ideas, any crazy theories, anything like that, it could be about one of the books, it could be about one of the TV shows, it could be about any random thing that sort of fits this. Just try to keep the spoilers to a minimum. If they're things that we've already covered in the books or that have already been covered in the shows at this point in the book, I don't mind you saying anything about it. That's fine. But if it's going to spoil big stuff in the future in the books or in the future in the TV shows beyond this point, please try to say it in a way that doesn't give big spoilers. That's as much as I'll say. I give spoilers myself, so I can't hound people too much about giving spoilers. I just do prefer to try to keep them minimal and try to keep them within the parts that we've already covered. All right, let's go ahead and go to my read scene. Part 15, Fox and the Cat. The Ardua Hall Holograph. Chapter 41. All things come to she who waits. Time wounds all heals. Patience is a virtue. Vengeance is mine. These hoary chestnuts are not always true, but they are sometimes true. Here's one that is always true. Everything's in the timing. Like jokes. Not that we have many jokes around here. We would not wish to be accused of bad taste or frivolity. In a hierarchy of the powerful, the only ones allowed to make jokes are those at the top, and they do so in private. But to the point, it has been so crucial for my own mental development to have had the privilege of being a fly on the wall, or, to be more exact, an ear inside the wall. So instructive. The confidences shared by young women when they believe no third party is listening. Over the years, I increased the sensitivity of my microphones. I attuned them to whispers. I held my breath to see which of our newly recruited girls would provide me with the sort of shameful information I both craved and collected. Gradually, my dossiers filled up like a hot air balloon getting ready for liftoff. In the matter of Becca, it took years. She'd always been so reticent about the primary cause of her distress, even to her school friend Agnes. I had to wait for sufficient trust to develop. It was Agnes who finally broached the question. I use their earlier names here, Agnes, Becca, since it was these names they used among themselves. Their transformation into perfect aunts was far from complete, which pleased me. But then no one's is when push comes to shove. But then no one's is when push comes to shove. I'm sorry. That took me a bit. Okay, so there was some things I wanted to address here. So she says this thing about the jokes, like they don't want to do that anywhere but in private, and only the like higher ups in the echelons of Gilead, because they don't want to be accused of bad taste and or frivolity. And we have been seeing in the TV series a couple points where Garth is actually trying to use humor, I think, to lighten up the situation and maybe get Becca to be a little less upset and a little more open, a little bit lighter, lighten up the mood a little bit, that kind of thing. And I think that kind of works well for her, because otherwise she's just like, I'm in this fucking terrible, awful position. It all sucks. Everything sucks. Everybody is horrible. But then here comes this guy who, no, she doesn't want to marry, but he's at least trying to lighten the load a little bit, trying to add a little bit of levity to the situation and maybe not be so freaking serious and not be so freaking like, hey, if you make the wrong step, if you do the wrong thing, if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, or you end up married to a dreadful person, or you end up in a worse position than you're already in, or whatever. He's at least trying to lighten the mood. which I know for some of the commanders, that is not necessarily a good sign. Some of those commanders actually use that to groom these girls, to make them mold to the kind of person that they want so that they can later break them down and make them exactly what they want for their situation. But I don't think that's what he's doing. We have some not necessarily great characteristics coming from him in the TV show. And in the TV show, he's a very different person than he is in the book. Just another one of the many things that they changed from the book to the TV show. But anyway, let's see. There was one other thing that I wanted to address other than the humor. Yeah, so she does say that it took her actually years before Becca had enough faith and trust, even in her best friend Agnes, to open up about what was going on. So I think that's very important to keep in mind. Years to build up enough trust with her best friend before she was willing to say anything. And that was after Agnes like pried it out of her. So just keep that in mind, especially with the stuff going on the TV show, that no matter what Becca has said, we don't know if what she said is the truth. We don't know if it's the whole truth. We don't know if she is hiding things that she's gone through. We don't know if she even remembers what she's gone through. We don't know. Hopefully we'll find out before season 2. And they have been approved for season 2. So just anyway, let's go on to the next page. Becca, what really happened to you? Agnes said one day when they were engaged in their Bible studies, to make you so set against marriage. Silence. I know there was something. Please, wouldn't you like to share it with me? I can't say. You can trust me. I won't tell. Then, in bits and pieces, it came out. The wretched Dr. Grove had not stopped at fondling of his young patients in the dentist chair. I had known about this for some time. I had even collected photographic evidence, but I had passed over it since the testimonies of young girls, if testimonies can be extracted from them, which in this case I doubted, would count for little or nothing. Even with grown women, 4 female witnesses are the equivalent of 1 male here in Gilead. Grove had depended on that. Also, the man had the confidence of the commanders. He was an excellent dentist, and much latitude is given by those in power to professionals who can relieve them from pain. The doctors, the dentists, the lawyers, the accountants. In the new world of Gilead, as in the old, their sins are frequently forgiven them. But what Grove had done to the young Becca, the very young Becca, and then the older but still young Becca, that, to my mind, demanded retribution. Becca herself could not be relied upon to exact it. She would not testify against Grove. Of that I was certain. Her conversation with Agnes confirmed this. Agnes. We have to tell someone. Becca. No, there's no one. Agnes. We could tell Aunt Lydia. Becca. She'd say he was my parent, and we should obey our parents. It's God's plan. That's what my father said himself. Agnes. But he isn't your real parent, really. Not if he did that to you. You were stolen from your mother. You were handed over as a baby. Becca, he said he was set in authority over me by God. Agnes, what about your so-called mother? Becca, she wouldn't believe me. Even if she did, she'd say I led him on. They'd all say that. Agnes, but you were 4. Becca, they'd say it anyway. You know they would. They can't start taking the word of people like me. And suppose they did believe me. He'd be killed. He'd be ripped apart by the handmaids out of persecution. And it would be my fault. I couldn't live with that. It would be like murder. Which, if you've watched the previous episode, this is a huge spoiler if you haven't. So just go away for a couple seconds. If you go by the TV show, she just committed murder. That's all I'm going to say. So, end of spoiler. I haven't added the tears, the comfortings by Agnes, the vows of eternal friendship, the prayers, but they were there. It was enough to melt the hardest heart. It almost melted mine. The upshot was that Becca had decided to offer up this silent suffering of hers as a sacrifice to God. I'm not sure what God thought of this, but it did not do the trick for me. Once a judge, always a judge. I judged. I pronounced the sentence. But how to carry it out? After pondering for some time, I decided last week to make my move. I invited Aunt Elizabeth for a cup of mint tea at the Schlafly Cafe. She was all smiles. She had been singled out for my favor. Aunt Lydia, she said, this is an unexpected pleasure. She had very good manners when she chose to use them. Once a Vassar girl, always a Vassar girl, as I sometimes said snidely to myself while watching her beating to the pulp the feet of some recalcitrant handmaid prospect in the Rachel and Leah Center. I thought we should have a confidential talk, I said. She leaned forward, expecting gossip. I'm all ears, she said. An untruth. Her ears were a small part of her, but I'll let that pass. I've often wondered, I said, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? She leaned back, puzzled. I can't say that I've given it any thought, she said, since God did not make me an animal. Well, let's be clear here. Humans are animals. We might not be considered wild animals. We might even be considered domesticated animals, but we are animals. We are part of the animal kingdom, whether we like to acknowledge it because of religious reasons or other reasons or not. We are animals. Just not necessarily wild animals. Indulge me, I said. For instance, fox or cat? Here, my reader, I owe you an explanation. As a child, I'd read a book called Aesop's Fables. I'd got it from the school library. My family did not spend money on books. In this book was a story I have often meditated upon. And here it is. Fox and Cat were discussing their respective ways of evading the hunters and their dogs. Fox said he had a whole bag of tricks, and if the hunters came with their dogs, he would employ them one by one, doubling back on his own tracks, running through water to destroy his scent, diving into a den with several exits. The hunters would be worn out by Fox's cleverness and would give up, leaving Fox to continue his career of theft and barnyard muggings. "And what about you, dear cat?" he asked. "What are your tricks?" "I have only one trick," Cat replied. "When in extremis, I know how to climb a tree." Fox thanked. Fox thanked Cat for the entertaining pre-prandial conversation and declared that it was now dinner time and Cat was on the menu. Snapping of fox teeth, clumps of cat fur, a name tag was spat out. Posters of missing cat were stapled to telephone poles with heartfelt pleas from woe-begone children. Sorry, I get carried away. The fable continues as follows. The hunters and their dogs arrive on the scene. Fox tries all his tricks, but he runs out of ruses and is killed. Cat, meanwhile, has climbed a tree and is watching the scene with equanimity. "Not so clever after all," she jeers, or some such mean-spirited remark. In the early days of Gilead, I used to ask myself whether I was fox or cat. Should I twist and turn, using the secrets in my possession to manipulate others? Or should I zip my lip and rejoice as others outsmarted themselves? Obviously, I was both, since unlike many, here I still am. I still have a bag of tricks, and I'm still high in the tree. But Aunt Elizabeth knew nothing of my private musings. "I honestly don't know," she said. "Maybe a cat." "Yes," I said. "I'd have pegged you as a cat, but now perhaps you must draw upon your inner fox." I paused. "Aunt Vidala is attempting to incriminate you," I continued. "She claims that you are accusing me of heresy and idolatry by planting eggs and oranges on my own statue." Aunt Elizabeth was distraught. "That is untrue. Why would Vidala say that? I would never harmed her." "Who can fathom the secrets of the human soul?" I said. "None of us is exempt from sin. Aunt Vidala is ambitious. She may have detected that you are de facto second in command to me." Here Elizabeth brightened, as this was news to her. "She will have deduced that you are thus next in line of succession here at Ardua Hall. She must resent this, as she considers herself your senior, and indeed mine. Having been an early believer in Gilead, I am not young, nor in the best of health. She must feel that, in order to claim her rightful possession, it is necessary to eliminate you. Hence her desire for new rules outlining the offerings at my statue. With punishments," I added. "She must be angling for my expulsion from the aunts, and for yours as well." Elizabeth was weeping by now. "How could she be so vindictive?" she sobbed. "I thought we were friends." "Friendship, alas, can be skin deep. Don't worry, I'll protect you." "I'm immensely grateful, Aunt Lydia. You have such integrity." "Thank you," I said. "But there is one little thing I want you to do for me in return." "Oh, yes, of course," she said. "What is it?" "I want you to bear false witness," I said. This was not a trivial request. Elizabeth would be risking much. Gilead takes a stern view of bearing false witness, though it is nonetheless done frequently. Yeah, like, here, let's go to the live scene. Like we have seen so many times in both the books and the TV show that many, many people in Gilead lie. They bear false witness over and over again for various things. They just have to do it in a way that they don't get caught red-handed, that they are not suspected by the wrong people, and that the right people that that maybe are privy to this stuff don't open their fucking mouths up. Don't freaking give it away, whatever the case might be. But we've seen plenty of times where people in all of these stories bear false witness. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead on to Part 16, Pearl Girls. Now, I have not read this ahead. I mean, I read it a long, long time ago, but I don't remember enough from a long, long time ago to say exactly what it's about. But it is called Pearl Girls, so I'm going to assume it's Pearl Girls. It is about the Pearl Girls. But I have not read it, so I don't even know whose perspective it's coming from yet. But let's go ahead to the reading scene. It does show the Pearl Girl logo on there, so I'm assuming it is coming from Daisy's perspective. Transcript of Witness Testimony 3069B, Chapter 42. My first day as Runaway Jade was a Thursday. Melanie used to say that I was born on a Thursday, and that meant I had far to go. This was an old nursery rhyme that also says Wednesday's child is full of woe. So when I was feeling grumpy, I'd say she got the day wrong, and it was really Wednesday. And she would say, no, of course not. She knew exactly when I was born. How could she have ever forgotten it? Anyway, it was a Thursday. I was sitting cross-legged on the sidewalk with Garth, wearing black tights with a rip in them. Ada had supplied them, but I had made the rip myself. The magenta shorts over them, and worn-out silver gel shoes. They looked as if they'd been through the digestive system of a raccoon. I had a dingy pink top. It was sleeveless because Ada said I should display my new tattoo. I had a gray hoodie tied around my waist and a black baseball cap. None of the clothes fit. They had to look as if I'd grabbed them out of dump bins. I'd dirtied up my new green hair to give the impression that I'd been sleeping rough. The green was already fading. You look amazing, said Garth, once he saw me in my full costume and ready to go. Amazingly like shit, I said. Great shit, said Garth. I thought he was only trying to be nice to me, and I resented that. I wanted him to actually mean it. But once you're in Gilead, you'll really have to cut the swearing. Maybe even let them convert you out of it. There was a lot of instructions to remember. I was feeling nervous. I was sure I would mess up. But Garth just said, just act stupid. And I'd say, thanks for saying act. I wasn't very good at flirting. I'd never done it before. The two of us were set up outside a bank. Which Garth said was a prime location if you were angling for free cash. People coming out of banks are more likely to give you some. Another person, a woman in a wheelchair, usually had this space, but Mayday had paid her to relocate for as long as we needed it. The Pearl Girls had a route they all followed, and our spot was on it. The sun was blazing, so we were backed against the wall in a little slice of shade. I had an old straw hat in front of me with a cardboard sign in crayon. Homeless, please help. There were a few coins in the hat. Garth said that if people saw someone else had put money in, they'd be more likely to do it themselves. And I agree. I think even I myself have been like, okay, let's put some money in there because I already saw a bunch of money. Whereas if there's nothing in there, I'm gonna be like, no. Anyway. I was supposed to be acting lost and disoriented, which wasn't hard to do since I really felt that way. A block to the east, George was set up in another corner. He'd call Ada and Elijah if there was any trouble, either with the Pearl girls or the police. They were in a van cruising the area. Garth didn't talk much. I decided he was a cross between a babysitter and a bodyguard, so he wasn't there to make conversation, and there was no rule that said he had to be nice to me. He was wearing a black sleeveless t-shirt that showed his own tattoos, a squid on one bicep, a bat on the other, both of them in black. He had one of those knitted caps, also in black. Smile at the people if they toss in, he said. After I'd failed to do this for a white-haired old lady. Say something. Like what? I asked. Some people say God bless you. Neil would have been shocked if I'd ever said such a thing. That would be a lie if I don't believe in God. Okay then, thanks will do, he said patiently, or have a nice day. I can't say those, I said. It's hypocritical. I don't feel thankful, and I don't care what kind of an asshole day they have. He laughed. Now you're worried about lying? Then why not change your name back to Nicole? That's just making me crack up because, yeah, you're worried about lying, so change your name back to Nicole. Miss Jade, Miss Daisy, Miss Holly, Miss whatever. Like, come on. How many names do you have at this point? It's not my name of choice. It's bottom of the freaking list. You know that. I crossed my arms on my knees and turned away from him. I was getting more childish by the minute. He brought it out in me. Don't waste your anger on me, said Garth. I'm just furniture. Save it for Gilead. You all said I had to have attitude, so this is my attitude. Well, here come the Pearl girls, he said. Don't stare at them. Don't even see them. Act like you're stoned. I don't know how he'd spotted them without seeming to look. They were way down the street. But soon they were level with us, two of them, in their silvery gray dresses with long skirts, their white collars, their white hats, a redhead from the wisps of hair that were showing, and a brunette, judging from the eyebrows. They smiled down on me where I sat against the wall. Good morning, dear, the redhead said. What's your name? We can help you, said the brunette. No homeless in Gilead. I gazed up at her, hoping I looked as woeful as I felt. They both were so prim and groomed. They made me feel triple grubby. So, was it, she said, we have no homeless in Gilead. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's because you fucking kill them all or imprison them all. And you force them into other roles. Like, yeah, no homeless in Gilead. Jesus fucking Christ. They're in fucking prisons or they're hanging on a wall dead. Okay, back to the page. Garth put his hand on my right arm, gripped it possessively. She's not talking to you, he said. Isn't that up to her? Said the redhead. I looked sideways at Garth as if asking for permission. What's that on your arm? Said the taller one, the brunette. She peered down. Is he abusing you, dear? The redhead asked. The other one smiled. Is he selling you? We can make things so much better for you." "Fuck off, Gilead bitches," Garth said with impressive savagery. I looked up at the two of them, neat and clean in their pearly dresses and their white necklaces. And believe it or not, a tear rolled down my cheek. I knew they had an agenda and didn't give a shit about me. They just wanted to collect me and add me to their quota. But their kindness made me go a little wobbly. I wanted to have someone lift me up, then tuck me in. "Oh my," said the redhead. "A real hero. At least let her take this." She thrust a brochure at me. It said, "There is a home in Gilead for you. God bless." The two of them left, glancing back once. Okay, I thought my speaker went off. Maybe I turned it back on. I try to keep the speaker on when I'm doing these so that I can hear if somebody comments, because it'll give me a little bling, so I'll hear it. "Wasn't I supposed to let them pick me up?" I said. "Shouldn't I go with them?" "Not the first time. We can't make it too easy for them," said Garth. "If anyone's watching from Gilead, it would be too suspicious. Don't worry, they'll be back." Alright, so we've got one more chapter we're going to do today, and then after that, on Tuesday, we'll probably finish up this part 16. I'm not 100% sure, though. It depends on how long the chapters are and stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and do chapter 43. That night we slept under a bridge. It crossed a ravine with a creek at the bottom. A mist was rising after the hot day. It was chilly and damp. The earth stank of cat piss, or maybe skunk. I put on the gray hoodie, easing the arm down over my tattoo scar. It was still a little painful. There were 4 or 5 others under the bridge with us. 3 men and 2 women. I think, though, it was dark and it was hard to tell. George was one of the men. He acted as if he didn't know us. One of the women offered cigarettes, but I knew better than to try to smoke one. I would cough and give myself away. A bottle was being passed around, too. Garth had told me not to smoke or drink anything, because who knew what might be in it. He'd also told me not to talk to anyone. Any of these people could be a Gilead plant, and if they tried to ferret out my story, and I slipped up, they'd smell a rat and warn the Pearl Girls. Excuse me. He did the talking, which was mostly grunts. He seemed to know a couple of them. One of them said, "What is she, retarded? How come she doesn't talk?" And Garth said, "She only talks to me." And the other one said, "Nice work. What's your secret?" We had several green plastic garbage bags to lie down on. Garth wrapped his arms around me, which made it warmer. At first, I pushed his top arm away. But he whispered into my ear, "Remember, you're my girlfriend." So I stopped wiggling. I knew his hug was acting, but at that moment I didn't care. I really did feel almost as if he was my boyfriend, my first boyfriend. It wasn't much, but it was something. The next night, Garth got into a fight with one of the men under the bridge. It was a quick fight, and Garth won. I didn't see how. It was a short, swift move. Then he said we should relocate. So the next night, we slept inside a downtown church. He had a key. I don't know where he got it. We weren't the only people sleeping in there. Judging by the junk and the crap under the pews, discarded backpacks, empty bottles, and the odd needle. We ate in fast food places, which cured me of junk food. I used to think it was slightly glamorous, probably because of Melanie disapproved of it, but if you eat it all the time, you get a sickly, bloated feeling. That's also where I went to the washroom, in the daytime, and when I wasn't squatting in one of the ravines. I would say about fast food that I do like having fast food from time to time, but when I've been having to take my kid to college, like every other night sometimes, it gets really, really old really, really fast. And not just the fast food, just like going out to eat, period. Whether it's fast food or dine in or sit in or whatever, it doesn't seem to matter. Like after a while, I just get so, so tired of it. And it becomes harder and harder for me to decide like where I even want to get food from. So I guess that is kind of a benefit when you get used to it and you're like, you know what, this kind of sucks. I'd rather have a fucking home cooked meal, or I'd rather have anything at home, frankly. And it gets very hard to find food that is semi healthy so that I'm not just gaining tons of weight and upping my fucking cholesterol and shit like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely been an issue since my kids started college, and I keep bringing them, especially when they have to go to the college in Melbourne. That one is a decent, and not Melbourne, Australia, Melbourne, Florida. That one is a decent distance away from where we live, so I don't drive back home. I usually I'll go to the library, and then when it's time for me to leave, or when it's almost time for me to leave, I'll go somewhere and pick up food. Sometimes I'll order it and pick it up when I get there. Sometimes I'll just get it whenever I get there, or order it whenever I get there. But anyway, all right, so where was I? Okay, so the fourth night was a cemetery. Cemeteries were good, said Garth, but there were often too many people in them. Some of them thought it was entertaining to jump up at you from behind a tombstone, but those were just kids running away from home for the weekend. The street people knew that scaring someone like that in the dark was likely to get you knifed, because not everyone roaming in cemeteries was completely stable. Such as you, I said. He didn't react. I was probably getting on his nerves. I should mention here that Garth didn't take advantage, even though he must have realized that I had a puppy love crush on him. He was there to protect me, and he did, including protecting me from himself. I like to think he found that hard. All right. Okay, so we are done with today's reading. Let's get back to here. I had talked a little bit. This is not about the book. This is about the TV show, because the last episode, the penultimate episode for the season, it was a lot. I had talked about that, but I'm pretty sure my mic was muted the whole time. Sorry about that. I will try to go back in at some point when the ability to edit the episode opens up. I will try to go back in there and cut out all the stuff where my mic was muted, but that will take some time. Anyway, I talked about the episode because it was a lot. I have heard a lot of people complain about how boring they think the Testaments is compared to the Handmaid's Tale. And honestly, I don't agree. I think the underlying shit going on in this Bridgerton-esque type show is enough to keep me engaged. And I'm not always easily engaged. That's just the reality. I'm not ADHD, but it takes a decent amount of entertainment and engagement in order for me to want to actually sit there and watch a show all the way through episode after episode. And these shows do. They keep me engaged because I do know there is this whole layer of decrepit shit going on underneath this pretty overprivileged surface. What we are seeing at the beginning of this TV show is an icing on the cake version of Gilead that looks on one level like, oh, this could be a nice little suburban town where you have these very well-off people. They're taking care of their kids. They're making sure they're protected. Daddy's in a high-up position, so he's got lots of money and privileges or whatever. Mommy's just doing what she can to make sure that her kids are in a great position once they get out, whatever. But we all know that shit is just the fucking covering. It is just the fucking show. It is a role they're playing to fucking stay up on the top, to keep their family up on the top, while all kinds of other underhanded awful shit is going on. And top that off, we're talking about a bunch of teenagers. These girls are anywhere from probably 10 years old to 16, being married off to fucking 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old men, with the claim that they are going to be the godly girls that are going to reproduce for these old men and make new babies. Old men that are likely to be sterile. Old men that in Gilead is supposed to be dealing with this massive problem of plummeted birth rates. Old men that even when they were young, they were saying that the men were likely to have already had massive problems with being sterile. But the older men even more so. Like, come on. What are they doing? They are putting on a fucking show. It's all fucking cover so that they can live out their fucking authoritarian wet dreams. And so they could carry out their fucking pedophilic dreams. Old ass men marrying these young women. Like, so just, ugh. But this last episode, even if that stuff that's underlying, that is problematic, doesn't do it for you, the last episode was definitely not boring. Not by any means. In some ways, I think it pissed some people off. I was in this just state of anxiety and sadness and anger for like the entire second half of the episode. I was so upset and so sad. Like, there was a lot of shit that went on. And the very end, not even the very end, I would say the last quarter was definitely not what I expected. I will not go into what it was. It did not obviously go along with the book, but I think it does carry the storyline along. It's just definitely not what I expected and made me very, very sad. Very sad and very worried. I'm going to say one thing. It might be a spoiler for the TV show if you have not watched that last episode. So if you don't want a spoiler, wait about 10 or 20 seconds and I'll be done saying this. But the people at the end that came and got Becca, that they said were the eyes, I don't think they were eyes. They appeared to all have been women. They were close to Becca's height. They had breasts. They were in long black suits, but they had those covers over their face, which remind me a lot of the covers that the girls in green were wearing at Agnes's baptism. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Spoiler over. Anyway, when I first watched it, though, I did not realize that. I did not notice it. And I was so freaking sad and scared and worried. But I think that change is actually going to help the situation. I think it's actually going to put it back to a situation that should be closer to what the books were than what I was thinking. Because when I first saw that, I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. This is really, 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 really freaking bad. I'm already very scared for Becca. She's in such a terrible position. And as for Daisy, like we've seen, Daisy is a very hot-headed, like wants to take action, spitfire mouth, just like messy girl. She has decided she's going to take action, and I knew it was going to be messy. And she is very much like June was after June decided she was going to start actually doing something. She acts first, thinks later. She just does stuff on the fly without really giving it a lot of consideration to what's going to happen to other people. But she's also a teenager. Teenagers do this shit. Like, acting like she's some awful, terrible person because she's acting this way, because she's doing this way, to me is just, it's a bit blind. We know she's a teenager. We know she is like this. And you can be mad at her all you want. This is one of the ways that teenagers are. They are rebelling. They are trying to learn how to be adults. They are trying to fucking step out and do something that is beyond what they would have done as kids. They are like this. And their hormones are going fucking crazy. She just started her period. Her hormones are definitely going to be going crazy. And I can tell you from my own experience that when that shit first started happening for me, I was going through a lot of emotional turmoil that I did not understand. That was hard for me. I didn't know where it was coming from. I was a bit of a mess. And Daisy is a bit of a mess too. And she has not had the years and years in training in Gilead to hide this shit. To cover it up, to put on a mask and act like everything's fucking okay when it is not. She hasn't had that experience. So I knew that whatever she did was going to be messy, that it was going to cause problems. I knew that. But goddamn, I didn't know they were going to be this fucking crazy and this fucking bad. But anyway, enough talking about the TV show. I am looking forward to the last episode. I think they are going to give us more information on Becca, and maybe we'll be able to find out if they're going to start going more the direction of the book, or if they're going to stay away from the direction of the book. I think we will find out more of that in this last episode. How far they're going to go, I don't know, because I thought that what they covered in this episode wouldn't have happened until the next episode. So, and that's not a real spoiler because I didn't say what it is, but I thought that would happen the last episode, and instead it happened that episode. So I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do for this episode, I guess, other than find out what the consequences are going to be. What's going to happen? How is life going to change for these girls, at least initially, at this very pivotal fucking shift in what's happened in their world? Because this is a big shift. This is a big change. If it was a regular, normal, everyday fucking town where these girls were just living a normal life, it would be a big, huge shift, and it would cause tremendous fucking turmoil. But this is Gilead. This is not normal. This is really going to cause a humongous shift in their worlds for everybody that is in Becca's circle. And possibly a lot of people that are not even in Becca's circle. So, anyway, enough of my talking about the TV show. I thought I said I was already going to stop talking about the TV show. But anyway, the books, Tuesday, I should be doing more reading from part 16, Pearl Girls. I'm assuming we'll probably get all the way through part 16, but I have to find out how long the chapters are before I know whether I'm going to do that or not. So we'll get to learn more about the Pearl Girls, or no. We'll get to learn more about the Pearl Girls. We'll get to learn more of Daisy's backstory in the book of how she ends up in Gilead. More of the backstory of what was going on for her training to get ready to go to Gilead, and this actual transaction between her and the Pearl Girls that are going to take her into Gilead. Anyway, that is all I've got for you today. I will see you when I see you. Bye.